Welcome again to the North versus South podcast featuring myself, Heath, and my co-host, State. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, good, mate. Really good. Tell you what, so happy, International Week. What a real pump that is for all those fantasy league players out there. Season's just started and boom, they give us an International Week. What a brilliant shout out by the UEFA or FIFA governing bodies. And it's put me in a good mood, as you can tell, people. Really happy about that.
We're currently sitting here recording while England are playing Hungary. Neither of us have any interest. I think this is just international football the way it is nowadays. But this week, we've got an absolute belter for you guys. We have decided to go with a feature that we've been working on previously, which is basically a team of the past. We are going back to the 1994-95 season. My main man here is going to be working with the North teams. And State, if you would like to tell me the teams that you currently have for the 94-95 season.
Well, I've got Blackburn, Everton, Leeds United, boo, Leicester City, Liverpool, Man City, Man United, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, brilliant eyes, Norwich City, and the worst team in the history of football, Sheffield Wednesday. Yes.
Nice. And I have Arsenal, Aston Villa, Chelsea, Coventry City, Crystal Palace, Ipswich Town, Queen's Park Rangers, Southampton, Tottenham Hotspur, West Ham United, and the old Wimbledon.
Oh, and look how your favourite team, Palace, is in there again. Yeah, you massively happy about that. Great work.
They got relegated that year. It was a good year.
4 teams got relegated that year. God, I mean,
that's right.
Massive, that's 1/5 of the league got relegated that season, I think. Absolutely nuts.
They cut it down to 20 the season after, yeah. So only 2 teams came up and 4 went down. But so this week we've actually put a pin in the shit list and our game week reviews and previews. And this week we'll just be focusing on this team of the past. And basically we'll have a cheeky little quiz at the end that State will be providing. This week, like I say, we're going to go to the 94-95 Carling Premier League, and we are going to assign a value for each player that we pick. There's 100 million budget, just like normal. And we're going to basically fight for whichever players we have when it comes to a final North versus South. Who is the ultimate team from our 2 teams? And that'll be quite a nice little debate that we'll have. Okay, so it's 1994. All right. John Major is Prime Minister of the country. We have Love Is All Around, Wet, 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 that's just boring the tits off everyone. It's been in the charts for ages.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say it was boring. I mean, if you watch the film Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Bryan Adams' song from back then, that bored everyone because that was on for longer. Wet, 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 at least had the decency to bring it off before it went beyond them in terms of number 1 for the amount of weeks. So fair play to Marty Pello.
We've just come away from the USA World Cup 94, where certain players like Daniel Amokachi have just got their big move to Everton. State and I are currently around 9-10 years old. We are probably a little bit defeated that England didn't make the World Cup, but we're looking forward to the Premier League season. We'll jump into our picks, and as I said earlier, we'll be basically picking a squad of 15, 100 million budget. We'll be basically making up the amount, but we're trying to be as fair as possible to the other one. I'm as usual at a loss here with some awful Southern teams. Their kind of renaissance doesn't come until the noughties really, so I'm having to work with what I've got. And State, I've got to be honest with you. If you don't have a squad of 15 of Northern players, you've just not argued very well, which is it's unlike you. So if you'd like to crack on with your goalkeepers for the Northern section.
Very, very easy section to be fair, is this part, Heath lad. So right. In Fantasy League, I'm sticking to the tradition of what we do. We get a good goalkeeper in, and then we get a keeper in who's not going to play at all, pretty much. That's what I've gone with my squad, so it frees up some millions elsewhere. So Peter Schmeichel is my goalkeeper from Man United. Okay, he played 32 games that season out of 42 games, so he missed 10 games. Gary Walsh, I believe, replaced him, but he got 21 clean sheets in those 32 games. No other goalkeeper got 21 clean sheets throughout the whole season. So no other club got that many clean sheets. So a couple were close, but 21 clean sheets in 32 games. Wow. You won't see that. You won't see that at the moment, to be fair. You won't see that from anyone in the league. So yeah, I think yeah, that's just a self-explanatory.
You're doing a pretty good impression there, Peter Schmeichel.
Yeah.
I don't know what you were trying to grab there.
I just caught Daddy Longlegs. It was floating around near me, and it was starting to get my nerves a little bit. So yeah, sorry about that. I did grab it quite well, didn't I? So, but yeah, so Pete Schmeichel's in there. I've put him in at the top end of the price range. He's a £6 million goalkeeper. You know, that's the high end, isn't it, in the current market?
No, so
I don't see anyone sort of turning around and saying I'm wrong there. You know, I didn't want to go undervalue him because that gives you ammunition to go at me for that, and I don't need that at this moment in time. I'll need that later on. So, so yeah. Then my second goalkeeper, because I had Leicester City in mind, was a guy called Gavin Ward. Absolute nobody. He played 6 games because Kevin Poole, anyone who's listening from the 90s will remember that name. He played 6 games. He didn't get any clean sheets in that. I'd put him down at the minimum 4 million. He's not going to be more than that because he's not going to play. I think again, I should be, backed up on that. So 10 million spent on my 2 keepers. One of them outstanding, 21 clean sheets. So you're not going to be able to beat that. So thank you very much.
And you're probably right. I really didn't have a huge amount to pick from. I'll start.
Boo-hoo.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't lie. I had John Lukage. He got 17 clean sheets. Tim Flowers got quite a few. I could go on. David James, all these players. I had a luxury of goalkeepers. I will be honest about that.
I think if it had been a season before or a season after, I think David Seaman would be quite a good competition for Peter Schmeichel. But this season is where Arsenal had an absolute stinker like they're doing in real life at the moment. Actually, it's not as bad then as it is now because they are, mid-table mediocrity at the time.
Did they come 12th that year?
Something around there. And David Seaman wasn't, I don't think he had a particularly good season because they didn't have a particularly good season. I had another option, which was Dimitri Karin. But when I actually kind of worked out who I should go for, I ended up going with stats alone can tell you a certain thing, but also I remember this guy. So Ludo McCloskey at West Ham United got 13 clean sheets, but he got 144 saves, and that was one of the highest from my area. So therefore, I would be expecting some save points there. 13 clean sheets wasn't really a lot, but at the same time, for the teams that I'm picking from, that was probably one of the best. And who can forget his incredible performance against Manchester United on the last game of the season to help Blackburn Rovers over the line. Yeah. And my backup keeper, he actually had more clean sheets, which is Nigel Martin, who was at Crystal Palace. He only conceded 49 goals, but Crystal Palace went down. So I think he probably was, I don't know, maybe him or Chris Armstrong would have probably have been Palace's player of the season, but Nigel Martin was one of their best players at the time.
He'd have surely got a boatload of bonus points with Nigel Martin that season. If they go down, he keeps 13 clean sheets, don't concede that many goals, so he's made saves as well. So yeah, he'll have been primed for bonus points, that man, that season, surely, you'd think.
Yeah. So I've gone with Big Ludo at 5 million, which I think is fair enough. And I've gone with Nigel Martin at 4.
Well, I suppose, given the fact that Palace did come up that season, so it would have been a low.
He probably would have been 4.5 million, really.
Yeah, I mean, just make a note of 0.5 on the side. If I need to pull that out on you later on, then I will do. So there you go. So let's because obviously, guys, we're sticking to our 100 million budget here. So it's very important that
strict.
We are strict here. So yeah, I want you to list just a casual 0.5 on your side.
I'll be totally honest with you, and this is probably a bit of a hint of things to come, but Honestly, you could probably put him at 7 million. It wouldn't affect the overall amount that I'm paying for these players.
Fair enough then.
so that's the goalkeepers. Realistically, yeah, I can't really compete with Peter Schmeichel. I can compete with the other chap, but not Schmeichel. That's our goalkeepers. To be honest, I think that's probably arguably the most boring part of this, because there aren't. To be fair, the goalkeepers on paper, I was looking at quite a lot of them, thinking I remember him being really good. I remember him being really good, but maybe
I had loads of options. John Lukic at Leeds was a big one for me. I mean, he played every game that season, unlike Schmeichel, and he kept 17 clean sheets, and he actually made a lot more saves, which you'd expect because United dominated a lot of the games that year. So I was very close to going with Lukic, but I actually just don't like the fact that he played for Leeds, really. So
and his kicking was an issue. I don't know if you've ever heard about this, but back in the day when they changed the rule, John Lukic was one of the best goalkeepers in the league. They changed the rule, the back pass rule. So that if anyone's listening, I don't know what they changed it to. In the early 90s, you could just pass the ball back to the goalkeeper and he could pick it up. But teams got done for time wasting. Well, actually, I say they got done. They didn't get done for time wasting. They could just constantly do it. It was quite a dull thing to do. And basically what happened was they obviously now have the pass back rule, which means that if you pass it back to the goalkeeper, he can't pick it up. And John Lukic really suffered, apparently, because he went from being one of the best goalkeepers in the league to a very average goalkeeper because he just couldn't kick the ball.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, he definitely couldn't.
All right, so defenders. So you need 5 defenders. All right, I'll start with the Southern defenders, and I'm going to start with an absolute classic defender who had a left foot that was beautiful. I can't think of anyone who had a better left foot. Maybe actually,
I will compete with that. I guarantee you.
Okay, I actually think that I've got 2 of the best left footers in my defence. All right, so I'll start with Stevie Staunton, who was at Aston Villa. I've put him down as 5 million because at Villa they were a decent team, but they weren't one of the best. Although they had been a couple of seasons before, I would say they were mid-table mediocrity. They had a stinker of a season this year, but Steve Staunton came in with 6 goals from left back. So I'll be honest with you, he's the highest. Actually, he's not. We'll come to that. He scored a lot of goals from left back compared to the rest of the guys who are on offer.
He needs to be 5.5 million.
Again. I mean, I can put him at 5.5, and it really wouldn't affect the overall team value of 100 million. Trust me. So then, moving on from one left footer to another, we're going to go on to a guy who just moved over from Liverpool. I don't even think he played as many games. I think he played 25 to 30 games. This is Julian Dix at West Ham. Yeah. Scored 5 goals, all of them penalties. Proper hard, defender. 9 yellow cards, but with 13 clean sheets. I think he was one of the big factors that turned West Ham around that season. Wasn't a Liverpool type of player, so ended up kind of going to West Ham, and they absolutely loved him.
He went. To be fair, he was signed from West. He was at West Ham and went to Liverpool.
That's
and
right.
Went back to West Ham. Because I actually first football game I ever went to see, Julian Dix scored a free kick for West Ham. I remember it in the 80s, late 80s. I think he was 1989. So yeah.
Yeah, he had a left foot on him, and he kind of. I suppose he was like he was similar to Troy Deeney in the sense that he puts the ball on the spot and you've got a feeling he's just going to smash it down the middle, and the goalkeepers can stand up, but they just couldn't stop it. So that's my second defender. My third defender, I'm looking at a guy who at the time was playing for Wimbledon, ended up getting a move to Newcastle. This is Warren Barton, and the reason why he got the move was because he actually had 8 assists that season. Wimbledon had a very solid season, finished mid-table. He got 12 clean sheets. They did concede quite a lot of goals, Wimbledon. They had a very unique way of playing. As if you're not aware, Wimbledon were the crazy gang who basically had a style which was a kind of no-nonsense attack and tough and direct.
Yeah.
Get the ball up to the striker and basically let the other team defense deal with it. And they were very successful until, unfortunately, got relegated in the late 90s, and then they never really came back up.
They had some players there, to be fair, and they were. I mean, I think that season they were the third best Southern team. They came ninth. So
yeah. They had some good players. They had Robbie Earle. They had Dean Holdsworth. They had who else do they have? Well, I don't want to give away any other picks I've got here, but they had Warren Barton.
Yeah, Big Vinny Jones. He won't be in your side later on. I bet you that. So don't worry.
No. Sorry, Vinny, as a Watford fan. But yeah, so Warren Barton gets in there at 5 million. Also, I put Julian Dix as 5 million. I think that's fair enough for those two. And Staunton, again, 5 million. So now we're looking at my cheap defender, who is a Danish maverick in Klaus Thompson at Ipswich Town. Now, Ipswich got relegated and they had a poor season. I think they
conceded 93 goals. How are you picking a defender from Ipswich? What is going on in the world?
Klaus Thompson scored 5 goals and got 4 assists. I don't know if he played fullback or if he played centre back, to be honest. I didn't do that much research into him because I knew he was going to be a set and forget 5th defender, always going to be third on my bench, never going to come in. And let's just say injuries, suspensions to Julian Dix, and I don't know, Warren Barton's combing his hair and missed a coach. Klaus Thompson might get in.
And hopefully one of the games where he scored one of his
goals, got an assist,
and they didn't concede 5 because
or 9 like they did against Man United. I've got Klaus Thompson, who's my little bargain. The last one is controversial, so what I've done is I've got some backup options just in case you don't accept it.
That wasn't your controversial one.
No. So, by the way, just if you didn't work it out, Klaus Thompson is a solid 4 million. There's no arguing with that one.
Do you know what this is the even scariest stat about this? He was actually their top scorer that season.
Exactly. That's why I spotted him.
but he was in a defence that conceded 93 goals, kept 3 clean sheets. So, yeah. I mean, God.
I just have this image in my head of there being a 4-4-2. And it turning into a 3-4-3 with Klaus Thompson being up top. And, what are you doing, buddy? Come back here. We've conceded 4.
Maybe that's why they conceded 93.
Exactly.
He was off gallivanting.
We've conceded 4, but I've got myself a goal and an assist today, so I don't care. So
I've done well on fantasy leagues.
Exactly. He's a trooper. Klaus Thompson, you're in there, mate, at 4 million. And this is a controversial one. This one I think is going to get dismissed. It came up on one of our podcasts quite recently. And this is the reason why I thought I could kind of throw him in there. And I can't wait for State's face now when I say Dion Dublin.
Not a chance. No way. Not a chance. I'll tell you what. I know he every now and then played at centre half, but he was a striker, right?
He was a striker.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's not happening. You can, I'm not. I mean, I could give him you if I really wanted to, because my team's going to kick your team's butt. But no, it's not in the fair spirit of the game.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think if you, the thing is, I was thinking if I could have Dion Dublin, you could have Chris Sutton, and that's one hell of a defender because he scored bagfuls that season, and he was down as a defender striker. So he must have played defence at some point that season. So
he's not in my squad, is Sutton. That's a bit of a spoiler there for you guys. So yeah, it's fine. But no, you're not having Dion Dublin. You can sort right off.
All right. Well, Dublin, I'm sorry, buddy. You're definitely not getting in up top.
Actually, no, I'll take it back. You can have Dion Dublin, but it's 12 million to you.
No, okay. Dion Dublin, he's out. In comes one of Ugo Ehiog at Aston Villa, Andy MP at QPR, or Richard Hall at Southampton. I'm not too sure which I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with Andy MP. I remember having one of those little big-headed figurines of Andy MP.
Yes.
And I don't know why I remember that, but I do. He was kind of like a winger / fullback. So I'm going to have him just to be cheeky again.
It'd be your ideal wing back in today's modern game, wouldn't it, Andy MP? Proper wing back. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm going to go with him because he's an exciting player. I'm sorry, Richard Hall at Southampton. You conceded way too many. And Ugo Ehiog at Aston Villa, you just didn't do enough. Sorry, buddy.
They had a bad season, Villa. They've gone from being really close to winning the title to really bad in a couple of seasons.
Yeah, I think Big Ron got sacked that year as well. He came out in the media and said something along the lines of, you come back here in a few months' time and you'll see a different situation, as in he was implying that they would work their way up the league. And in a few months' time, they came back and he wasn't manager.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Andy Impey comes in. I'm going to put him as the same price tag as I put as Dion Dublin. I'll put him down as 5 million. QPR were a pretty solid Premier League team at that point. So yeah, that's the Southern defence. Again, I really don't think it's going to be able to compete with the Northern defence, but we'll see.
No, probably not. I'd have let you have 4.5 million for Andy Impey, just so you're aware. So you can knock one of those 0.5s that I made you put on earlier off if you like.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, you said you got 2 left-footed players that I can't compete with, so I'm going to leave them 2 till last because I've got 2 who are better than yours, and the stats will tell us that they're better than yours. So that's just to get you thinking. Who are these 2 people? You should know one of them right off straight away. The other one, I don't know if you will have thought of him yet or not. But anyway, so my defenders, solid defenders. Obviously, I've got a bit of luxury here because a lot of the teams up in the north were far better and winning, taking the top 6 spots. So anyway, first defender, I've gone for a second Leeds player in my squad. I'm a bit against Leeds, but actually I've got 3 Leeds players in. This is my first Leeds player. Sorry, there's a second one coming later on. Spoiler alert again. David Weatherall, towering centre half, 38 games, 3 goals, 2 assists. But the key thing was Leeds got 17 clean sheets that season. So, and he played in every game barring 4. So he's had a minimum of 13 clean sheets, but I pretty much reckon they'll probably been nearly all within there. So David, big, tall David Weatherall, no nonsense centre half. He was there. I think it was just before the time of Lucas Radaby sort of coming to the forefront at Leeds. I think at that point, I don't think Weatherall had too many more seasons. I mean, I think he had 3 or 4 more seasons at Leeds before he went on to Bradford, but he was definitely sort of, that was, I think, him at his sort of peak of his defending talents, in my opinion. I think, Mr. Radaby came along after that. I've put him down at a cool 5 million. I think that's a pretty set price for him. Don't know, if you disagree, you'll make a comment.
No, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
So then going on to a no-nonsense centre-half who's, not known for very much footballing capabilities, but I needed someone, cheapish. Peter Atherton. Now, it pains me to put a Sheffield Wednesday in this squad. It really does. But, he played 41 games, 1 goal, he got 6 assists. Wednesday got 12 clean sheets that season. I just thought it'd be quite cheap. 4.5 million I've put him at. I maybe could have pushed him in at 4, but I think I'll go 4.5 for him. But again, he's a bit of a nothing sort of player who you have in your squad in fantasy, but he played every game. He'll got you some clean sheets every now and then, and some, a few assists, 6 assists, not too bad, I don't think. So yeah, Peter Atherton there.
I mean, he's no Klaus Thompson, but yeah, go for it.
You're right. He's no Cloud Thompson because he didn't concede 93 goals that season. You're right. Fair play. But if that's how we're comparing people, then, I'll get rid of my next person and then my next 2 will blow Cloud out of the water. Dennis Irwin. No one needs any introduction if they know football in the night. It's Dennis Irwin. For those of you who don't, those younglings who are reading into our podcast, have a look at Dennis Irwin. He's got some great goals in his time, but I mean, this season he didn't score as many, but he played 40 games for United. Like I said, they got 21 clean sheets. Actually, United got 24 clean sheets that season, but 21 of them were Schmeichel before. They got another 3 with Gary Walsh in there. So there you go. There's some knowledge for you guys. I've done my research. 24 clean sheets. He played 40 games. He's had a minimum of 22 clean sheets there. He's got 2 goals, 4 assists. Irwin's playing for one of the best teams, so he's going to be a bit higher. And he's, I put him in at 5.5 million. I don't know if you agree with that. But
yeah, probably. I'll probably give you that one. But I think he was penalty taker, wasn't he, when Cantona got suspended?
But
don't know how many penalties he actually took. But
that season, actually, he didn't take any penalties that season.
Really? I thought he had one. He definitely had one.
Not according to my stats. Not according to my stats that season. But I could be wrong. He did start taking them a bit later on, but because Cantona played the first half of the season, and then Brian McClare took the other one once Cantona had gone. That's my readings from it. But
Jeez, are you looking at the right season here? Because I'm pretty sure he scored. I watched 94-95 season, and he scored a penalty against Southampton.
You might be thinking of something different. My stats don't tell me that, and
his stats don't lie.
Exactly.
All right, let's have a look. Go on, carry on anyway.
So now on to the two left-footed players who are better than your two left-footed players. So first one is a man who played at Everton as a left back.
I know who this is.
Andy Hinchcliffe. Now, he only played 29 games that season. He scored 2 goals. He got 11 assists. 14 clean sheets Everton got that season. So 11 assists, though, man. And do you know what the beauty about this is? Everton were a shit team then, so he's going to be cheap. Because previous season, they finished 17th, survived on like the last day of the season, that Graham Stewart goal against Wimbledon, keeping him up. So Everton weren't a good team back then, still sort of debatable if they're a good team now. To be fair, sorry, Everton fans, but let's be honest, it's the truth. So I've put him in at 4.5 million, and he got me 11 assists. I'm happy. Now, the main man, the surprise package of the season was Nottingham Forest. And they had a certain left back who, let's just say, has a great relationship with England fans from his 90 days. 1990, his tears were unforgettable for his missed penalty. In 96, he made it up with some, against Spain and Germany with taking penalties. But psycho Stuart Pearce came up with promoted Notts Forest, where he spent pretty much all his life playing. They got promoted. They came third in the league. He played 36 games. He scored 8 goals. 4 of them were penalties. Just before you say, they're all penalties, they weren't. They were only 4. 10 assists, though, still. There were 13 clean sheets for Forest that season. If you want to really argue that you've got better left-footed players in your defence than me, then I'll give you 20 seconds to try and prove that. But I think we both know you're going to struggle.
It's fine, because while you're talking about Stuart Pearce, who is, by the way, one of my favourite football players in general because of the way he was, and just loved the fact that he took free kicks, he took penalties, he smashed them, didn't celebrate. It's just like, that's my job, to score a goal. I just love that. I thought it was great. But I'm just going to quickly share my screen. If you're on the podcast, you're not going to see this screen. I'm just going to show it to state there's a certain Mr. Irwin with a 80th minute penalty, 10th of May 1995 against Southampton. I wasn't imagining it.
That's a lie to me then, which then throws all my other stats into cahoots now. Well, I'm flabbergasted.
Anyway, no fine for you, mate. But yeah, I guess at least I win one little argument, because I'm certainly not going to win who's better out of my guys. And I actually think at one point I was actually thinking Dennis Irwin would be my best defender, but actually I think I'll probably go with Pearce. But Irwin would be one of the best as well.
Yeah, Pearce just scored all those points for you. I mean, I don't know if I've been generous, been a bit. I put him down as a 5 million since the Kip got promoted that season. I put him as 5. Maybe he could have been 5.5. I thought 5 million was pretty fair, given they were in the Championship or Division 1 the previous season, and the previous season before that they got relegated in 22nd spot in bottom place. So I mean, those were his best ever stats in a single season that year for Forest. I think not for anyone. Before he moved. I think he went to Newcastle later on and had a brief stint at West Ham, but that was his best ever season in the Premier League when it comes to goals, assists, and he didn't miss any of his penalties either, so he wouldn't have got you any missed penalties, and he didn't get a red card as well, which is quite surprising to see. He got 7 yellow cards that season.
Because he wasn't a dirty player, was he? He was
putting a strong tackle.
He got stuck in, but in those days you could get away with that. But it wasn't.
He'd have been screwed now. He'd have been in.
Yeah.
Just imagine Ronaldo running at him, and he just gives him a little tickle. He'd have been sent off several times.
100%. Honestly, mate, I'm already defeated with the defensive and the goalkeepers. So if you want to carry on this momentum,
I'll fly through my midfield for you just to make your life feel a bit better about yourself, so don't worry. My midfield, I'm quite happy with. I mean, there's no sort of out and out what you class as superstars, but then again, the stats tell you a lot still. So I'll start with my lower end player. So my cheap midfielder, Gary Flitcroft at Man City. If you remember him, he had beautiful parting, and everything. He could have really got involved with the Spice Boys at Liverpool if they'd have thought he was any good, but they probably didn't. But I always thought he was an all right little player, He played 37 games for Man City that year. These were in the years when Man City were a real football club, by the way, guys. It's not a big sellout like now. So 37 games, 5 goals, 4 assists, 10 clean sheets City got that season. So he got the odd clean sheet bonus point as a midfielder. 5.5 million. He's your cheap midfielder who's going to get you 2 points most games, occasional goal, occasional assist, nothing special, but he's there just as your backup when a couple of you guys don't play, because he's going to play. Moving on, another Leeds player, Gary McAllister. This guy was a good player. He played 41 games for Leeds that season, got 6 goals, 8 assists. Leeds obviously got a lot of clean sheets after the 17 that year. And so Gary was in there for me. I've got him down as a 7 million player. I think that'd be around fair for him. I think, it's one of those where, Leeds did have a good season. He was never sort of like a prolific 10, 20 goals season midfielder like a Frank Lampard. So, I think he'd be around those numbers. Maybe I'm a bit low on him. He could potentially go up slightly, but that's what I sort of laid him down at. He did take penalties, so I think he did miss one that season from the stats I've got, which again, I hope they're not too faulty. So Gary McAllister there. Now on to my 3 big guns in midfield. Nottingham Forest again. I've gone to them. And they bought a player called Brian Roy that summer for 2.5 million, which you think now doesn't sound like a lot, but 2.5 million now, just to give you an idea, it's like if you saw a League One club signing a 2.5 million player, you're thinking that's big money, and it was big money back then. It was decent money. It was their record transfer fee. It wasn't like the biggest, but it was very good still. And they brought him from Foggia in Italy, played 37 games, he scored 13 goals, and he got 11 assists. And he was not known to the Premier League. I can't remember if he went to the World Cup with Holland. I think he might have done, to be fair, but he wasn't deemed their sort of standout sort of player. It wasn't a Dennis Bergkamp who would turn up in an Arsenal sort of shirt a few years later. But yeah,
I think he might have been a squad player, right? I don't know if he wasn't a starter, but I think he may have been in the squad. But just to kind of back up state here about the value of that amount, I think Andy Cole signed for Man United during the season. He was about 7 million. That was the record transfer that season or that point. So if you're signing for 2.something million, that's a fair bit of money.
I mean, I've put him down as an 8 million player because, he's not really well known. I think that's fair. Forrest came up again. He was obviously their marquee signing then. But he was in the squad for the World Cup. I don't think he played all that often, though. But like I said, good player and good stats for the year.
I think you're being a bit generous there. I think, to be honest, I would see him, a modern day equivalent would be someone like Rafinha last year for Leeds, where he, not a lot of people knew about him, but he's obviously a quality player. I would say 7 million or 6.5, 7 million. But yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's good for me.
Rule Fox is my next player. Now, Rule Fox, legend at Norwich City and then Newcastle. He did a lot for those clubs. He was part of the Newcastle sort of side that I think they came 6th that season. But yeah,
crazy to think that he sold out and went to Newcastle. There's not many times you hear that nowadays.
No, back then Newcastle had the money, didn't he? I think he'd been at Norwich. Obviously, the first season in the Premier League, Norwich were up there and came not 3rd. I think Villa might come 2nd that year. in the first ever Premier League. So he was there with Norwich, was sort of like in their pump, making Europe and doing bits. And then Newcastle came along in '93, got to get promoted. They had money at Newcastle and basically bought, you'd sort of say in a way, they bought their way up there to get into a competing sales. Not like you'd see close by now, but they've spent a lot of money. But anyway, yeah, they bought Rolf Fox. He played 40 games. He scored 10 goals. He got 11 assists that season. He wasn't a penalty taker or anything either. He was, he was a wide player, played out wide on the right wing, or sometimes on the left. But yeah, he was very good with Rolf Fox, to be fair. And I mean, that was his best ever season in the Premier League. To be fair, that year he went and signed for Spurs after that season, and obviously went downhill from there, which happens to a few people. But I put him down as 8.5 million because he was quite a popular player then, I thought, and obviously I had some decent previous season stats. So yeah, that was him. Then the final player in my midfield, the Russian winger Andrei Kanchelskis, who played at Man United. He played 30 games, so he didn't play. He played 30 out of 42, so not many. Because they also had Lee Sharp as a third winger, so him, Giggsy, and Sharpie were there. But he scored 14 goals. He got 3 assists. Maybe not as much on the assists, but 14 goals for a winger, not bad. And also, he'll get the odd clean sheet bonus because United kept a lot. So yeah, Kanchelskis was a quality player. If you watched him play, if you watched him running with the ball, sometimes he was frightening. He just had so much pace to burn with the guy, even with the ball. And that was his final season at Man United. To be fair, I think he fell out with Fergie, but he went to Everton the following season. He scored even more goals at Everton the following season. So it was just ridiculous. His sort of output in terms of goals that year was his best. Previous season he'd only scored 6. His first season with United in the Premier League he'd only scored 3. So he obviously ramped up his game that year. That's why I gave him an 8.5 million sort of price tag there as well. Yeah, that completes my midfield.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he actually got moved on, didn't he? Because they were bringing through the kids, weren't they? They were bringing through the Beckhams and the Scholes and the Nevilles.
David Beckham got brought through. No one wins out with kids today. Yeah.
No, I think I do think that was. I remember when I was younger and hearing that Kanchelskis had moved, and I couldn't believe it because it felt like he had peaked, and then they got rid of him, and not only got rid of him, but they kind of.
It was Giggsy was obviously the more of the poster boy of the wingers, but I mean Giggsy only scored 1 goal that season, so he got 11 assists. So granted, he got a load more assists, but scored 1 goal. No offense, Giggsy, but that's just not good enough for me.
Let's get away from these northern players. Realistically, I'm sure like the listeners are just as bored as I am of listening to these success stories. We need a bit of character. And who else can bring character than my cheap midfielder, John Wark? Now, this guy, Ipswich Town, an Ipswich Town legend without a doubt. This guy, he played in every position, I swear, down the middle. By this time, he was playing midfield, and Ipswich unfortunately weren't really having a great time. But he still got 4 goals and 4 assists at the age of 36. He was a penalty taker. He scored 3 penalties. So at 4 million, I think that's fair. He would have been dropping, just like Ipswich Town. I assume he probably, was quite happy they went down to the Division 1 at the time because it would have been a bit easier for him given his age. But I'm sure he was close to retirement. So Johnny Wark, he's my other sub. He'll be sitting on the bench, keeping Klaus Thompson, his fellow teammate, company on the bench. That I'm sure they have a lot in common.
Just to let you all know, Heath isn't an Ipswich fan, okay? Just to let you all know that.
No, I do respect people who like tractors, and Ipswich, they're known for it, right? Yeah, John Wark on the bench with Klaus, and now we're going to start talking about proper midfielders. All right, I'm going to start with I've obviously, like I say, John Wark 4 million. I'm going to go for my next cheapest, which is a guy just like Julian Dix. He moved from Liverpool to West Ham. This is Don Hutchison, who was attacking midfielder. He got 9 goals, 4 assists. Again, can't compete with the Northern lads, but the guy basically found his team after being let go by Liverpool. Kind of got West Ham safe. I think they were normally a fairly relegation type team at that point, but they were fairly safe with him and a few other players. But yeah, Don goes in there as, quite a solid 7 million for me.
Quality player, Don Hutchinson, to be fair. I think he was underappreciated at Liverpool. They didn't give him the game time that he probably deserved. I think maybe they signed someone, I can't remember, maybe, but yeah, I remember him then getting sold to West Ham, and I'm thinking, yeah, back in those days, good signing for West Ham, and his stats showed that. I think always had the talent, and yeah, he had a full season with Liverpool where he actually played pretty well.
Yeah. So and then I'm going to move on to some Tottenham assets. We've got Nicky Barmby, who at the time was a very lively player, well known up the north because he went on to play for Middlesbrough after this, but got 9 goals, 6 assists. I've put him down as 8 million. He was a very good player, always around the England team at that point, but never really an actual starter. And the reason for that is this is my next guy, who is the guy who probably kept him out of the team, Darren Anderton. Whenever he was fit, he was a very, very good. Yeah, he unfortunately would get injured quite a lot. But this season, I've put him down as 9 million, and that's just because I've got money to spend. He could be 8, he could be 9, he could be 8.5, but I've gone with 9. I don't do half measures. And Anderton, he actually played 37 games. He's actually the only person I put down for stats. I put down how many appearances, because most people probably listening to this going, well, how many appearances did he get? 37 that season, which is pretty impressive.
I bet he didn't make that many appearances in a season ever again.
Exactly. So he got 5 goals, 14 assists. This is his build up into a very successful Euro 96 with England, where it had McManaman on one side, Anderson on the other.
What sexy winger force that was in 96. Oh, beautiful.
Honestly, I think whenever I play Football Manager, I have to have wingers, out and out wingers. I think that's just because of what we were brought up with when we were younger in the 90s. But so Anderton's at 9 million. Now, my next guy is a team of the season man, right? This guy, I think he gets into both teams, no problem. He gets into the overall team without a doubt. I don't think I actually think he could arguably be the best midfielder in the game. I've put him down to 7 million because he was playing for a relegation team, but he was their go-to guy. He was their main man. This is Matt Le Tissier at Southampton, who, one club man, never left, should have left really, if you ask me, but he got 19 goals and 15 assists that season for a relegation team. And I actually think this might have been a season where it was either this season or the season before, where he had about 2 or 3 goals in the, goal of the year award. I mean, the guy just scored goals, and not just goals, but great goals regularly for fun. And the biggest shame about Le Tissier is, I personally think I love the fact that he's a one club man, but I think he should have moved on. He should have kind of worked on his fitness, and he should have become an England, superstar, but it didn't quite work out.
He was like, yeah, I mean, I can't disagree. I couldn't argue against him. If Southampton were another team, this man would definitely be in my team. His goal records and everything, he's probably, I mean, you'd call him probably more like a number 10, wouldn't you, I suppose? So he'd be like a attacking midfielder. But you look at his stats, I mean, those stats for that season, I mean, he scored more goals the previous season, but he didn't get as many assists. And Matt Le Tissier, arguably one of the most talented players to ever grace the Premier League.
And this is now going to be the first plug, all right, on this podcast. But I would highly recommend, if you haven't listened to it, quickly, Kevin, podcast. If you listen to that, the one featuring Matt Letitia, it's hilarious because he talks about how he used to just go to McDonald's before training, and it's so funny to hear how he obviously cared, but obviously didn't care that much about his fitness because he was a natural talent.
It was still quality, wasn't he? Still dominated games and teams, with those stats. I mean, he's like I heard the story about, I think it was I think Alan Shearer said it in his autobiography or something, how he was being marked by Paul McGrath once, and Paul McGrath just smelled of booze, and I think Paul McGrath was on session until about an hour or two before kickoff and just turned up. But these players had those natural talent back then. They could just do that, couldn't they? They could just turn up and they knew how to play no matter what state they were in.
Arsene Wenger ruined it for everyone, didn't he? That
bloody did. Arsenal again. Arsenal. I know we said no shit list this week, Heath, but surely we need to put Arsenal on there. They ruined football.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, Arsenal, but you've ruined football. So that's my midfield. I will, as a little bit of a shout out to some of the options that didn't quite make the cut. John Solarco, probably wing at Crystal Palace. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out for him there, and Palace got relegated. If you don't know already, Trevor Sinclair at QPR, another lovely football player who scored one of the best goals FA Cup against Barnsley over the kick. Yeah, incredible.
Oh, what a strike!
Must have seen it a million of times over the years, but the fact is, it still looks great. If you haven't
seen it, he had great hairdo then as well.
He had the dreads. He had the dreadlocks.
If anyone can get this to Trevor Sinclair, because he's obviously got a bald head now and nice and shiny when he got really big into England in early 2002 in the World Cup. But before that, he had dreadlocks. Trevor, we loved the dreadlocks.
They were cracking, and so they didn't quite make it as two classy wingers. Oyvind Leonardson at Wimbledon, who then got his move to Liverpool after, I think it might have been the next season, but he was a very, very good football player. His stats didn't quite add up, so he didn't quite make it in front of Don Hutchison. And obviously he's not going to get there in front of John Wark, because I couldn't convince you that Leonardson's a 4 million player. So
thought you had money to burn.
I did. But to be fair, I actually think I put John Wark in there because I assumed I'd have no money left, and he was probably one of the first players on the team sheet, if I'm being honest with you. My last option who didn't quite make it, he didn't quite make it because his stats weren't very good, and I don't think he played that much. But I had loads of stickers of this guy, Craig Maskell at Southampton. I swear I must have had about 6 of his stickers, and no one wanted to swap with me with Craig Maskell. So I just had it like a squad full of stickers of Craig Maskell, and he used to wind me up.
You always used to have one of those, didn't you? And if you collect those Merlin sticker books back in those days.
That's the one, yeah.
Tim Breaker, or Breaker, whatever you want.
Breaker, yeah.
I always had a boatload of Andy Impey, who you've always already mentioned. I had a load of him. Other player I had a load of is a player I forgot to give a shout out to, who came close in the midfield, was Steve Staunton at Notts Forest. He had a good season. First sort of full. He had that year in the Premier League there, where he was, he had a couple of good years, to be fair. I think, he got sort of on the fringes. I think he was in the Euro 96 England squad, actually, but he didn't play because of the McManaman and Anderson factor. But yeah, Stevie Stone, I mean, there was some of those players you used to always have lots of swapsies in. No one wanted them, because guess what? They had about 1 billion swapsies with the same player. So yeah.
And do you remember, last thing I'll say about the stickers, the Merlin stickers, but do you remember Wimbledon? I swear to God, they used to always have massive faces on their pictures. It's like as if they came straight up to the camera. And it was like, all right, well, Robbie L, calm down, mate. I don't want to see your full faces.
We're just trying to intimidate the cameraman.
Exactly.
They never took the game face off, did the, Vinnie Jones, Robbie Earl, you won't mess with those two guys in midfield.
Neil Ardley.
Yeah. Mick Harford up front, and all that. And I mean, I think if you could watch the Wimbledon sort of documentary, which goes back to when they won the FA Cup, and even back then you see John Bashany when talking about him, and he was like, we had this sort of reputation, and guess what? We were proud of this reputation, and they kept pushing that for a number of years until, like I said, Wimbledon, unfortunately, when they got relegated, it just sort of ended. But they had a number of seasons in the Premier League where everyone couldn't believe, this team just sort of doing so well, and keep sort of staying up, or they had a couple of top 10 finishes, but then once they got relegated, that worked for them. But
they were a team of characters, and just like this Southern team that I'm going to finish off with some strikers. There's a few more characters in here. I think that maybe you've got the better team for quality, but I've got the more likable team. That's where I feel like I'm going to win this one.
Huh?
And I
so I've never heard such nonsense in my life. I mean, seriously. Okay, carry on. I'll berate you for it in a minute.
I'm in a corner here, mate. I'm trying to get out of it. All right, so
digging deeper.
One thing I did notice, the one thing that I did notice about this was that because there's a lot of teams playing 4-4-2 back in those days, it did seem like the stats all fell to the strikers. So there's a lot of good strikers to choose from. So I'll go with my mentions first rather than the, kind of best till last and all that kind of stuff. But Dion Dublin could have got in there twice, but doesn't get in there at all now. Bless him. Unlucky Dion. You got Dean Saunders at Aston Villa, scored a few goals. Probably the person who loses out and is probably kicking himself because of his teammates is Teddy Sheringham. You can't get in there because of Anderton and Barmby, and there literally wasn't many good midfielders. So I've already got my strikers, and your stats probably were slightly better than another striker. You had to kind of miss out this time.
Because you chose the other striker.
Yeah, so the striker, the first striker, the one whose stats were close to Sheringham, slightly worse, was his direct rival, Ian Wright. Again, like I say, character. What a lovely guy. I'd say one of the best personalities in football, even now. And, I think with 18 goals, 8 assists, definitely one of the best finishers in the league at that point, carried on all the way through to when Wenger came in. I've got him down at 9 million. I think that's fair. Might be a bit more, maybe slightly more.
What, 9 million? Seriously?
What do you think?
Right, back in those days, he was a renowned, pretty much, getting you close to 20 goals a season, if not 20 goals a season striker. No.
I'd say
season before he got 23 goals and you put him in at 9 million. If a player in Premier League gets 23 goals, he's a 10 million man. He's a Jamie Vardy sort of value. And Jamie Vardy is what, 10 million? Yeah.
All right.
Well, shy.
I'll take that argument and I'll just go with it because again, got plenty
You've
of
got money to spare. Yeah.
So Ian Wright, you've been promoted from a 9 million striker to a 10 million striker, but you didn't come close to this next guy. And this next guy was easily one of my favorite players at the time. Leslie Ferdinand, QPR. Honestly, 24 goals, 9 assists. I mean, the incredible stats when you think, again, QPR were just a mid-table team, didn't have much going on. In the end, Les Ferdinand went on to play for Newcastle and so close yet so far to that title with Keegan. But I loved him as a footballer because he was quick, he was strong, he was good up in the air. He had a great left foot and decent right foot as well. The fact is that this guy, again, another one of those players, you just think, how did they not quite make it in England? But, he was being kept out by Sheringham and Shearer. There were other players, Fowler, Wright. There was, a few other strikers. But it didn't quite work for Ferdinand, unfortunately. But he was a really talented player. I've got him down at 8 million.
For God's sake, man. This is getting silly now.
QPR mid-table team, going nowhere.
No, it's different for strikers. Strikers don't fall under those quite.
He's like a Bamford. He's like a Patrick Bamford.
But he'd scored 16 and 20 goals the previous 2 seasons.
All right.
And they'd come 5th and 9th. No.
All right, let's promote him to 9 million then. How about that?
Yeah, 9
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Right.
Good.
All right.
9 million's good.
I'm still okay. All right. Well, this last guy, you might have a word with me about this guy then, because he's
Can't
got
be any worse than your John Wark. Quoting us.
Well, there's no striker sitting on the bench here. I'll tell you that. This is arguably the best striker in the league that year. Made the team of the season with Big Matt. This is Jürgen the German Klinsmann, and this is a guy who scored 20 goals, 10 assists, and I think he was around 35, 36 when he was at Spurs. Was assuming that he was going to have a couple of years at Tottenham and that was going to be it. And then he gets signed. It might have actually been slightly younger, maybe 33, 34, but
it was 30.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess in my mind, I was thinking
when he re-signed in 97, 98, he was 33.
That's what I was thinking of. But basically, at 30, he was thinking, all right, I can go to the English Premier League, and I'm sure it'll probably be a little bit easier than German league, because the English Premier League didn't have as much quality as it does now. And he ended up, signing for Bayern Munich the next season. So he made the team of the year. Without him, Tottenham would have been screwed. And they did, I did see him, and you're going to laugh at this. At the time, I was going to Crystal Palace with my friend who was a Crystal Palace fan, and we used to save the money from a paper round to go to games, and we actually saw Klinsmann, not this season, the season when he came back, and he was incredible then. Such a good football player. Just it was a shame really that he had such a bad reputation before he came to English football. But again, I love the fact
his
that
celebration.
Yeah, exactly. I love the fact that he mocked himself.
He was known as a diver, but then he scored a hat-trick, I think, in his first game, didn't he, or something? And
against your boys, your favourite team.
Yeah, against Sheffield Wednesday. So he's always going to be a hero in my eyes. But then he did the Klinsmann dive celebration.
That's right.
So, and I think fans just straight away just loved him because he had the personality and the character to do that and say, yeah, okay, I might dive a bit, so I'm going to dive as a celebration. And I think that was probably in the 90s after he did that. That was probably the best, the celebration that kids all love to do, just to wind up the parents so they muck it up the kit a bit more. But it was the most iconic celebration that English football knew, I think, in that time.
Definitely. And obviously he would have been deeply disappointed after being knocked out by Bulgaria in the World Cup 94, and he's come over to England, and he's had the time of his life at Tottenham, and they love him.
What price you put him at, Heath? What price you got him down at?
He obviously came from, he was at the age of 30, so he was getting on a bit. I put him at 10 million. I think that's fair enough, right?
No, definitely not. No, he's 11 million. He's 11 million.
I think I'm still okay then. All right, fine. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, Ronaldo's just come across at 37 at 12 and a half.
He's not close. He's not close to Ronaldo. Come on. I mean,
but he's good, still, back in those days, Klinsmann was a huge name. Huge name. Been at Inter Milan the previous number of seasons, winning things. 11 million.
Fine. Okay. No worries. I've added that in. So that concludes my Southern team.
Yeah, to be fair, you have some good strikers there. You needed to have good strikers because my strikers are still better, but they're good. I can't argue with that. So, where do you want me to start?
Maybe just go with Eric Cantona. Oh wait, Eric Cantona's not in there, right? Because
Cantona's not in there. So. He's somewhere else. He's plus I've already used 3 Man United players up, so I can't go Cantona. Right, I'll go with the surprise package of the season probably when it comes to strikers that year. I mean, he had a good reputation from Division 1, helping this team get promoted to the Premier League. But again, no one expected Notts Forest to have a great season, probably not this good of a season. I think they would probably fancy to do all right, but not this good of a season. And Stan Collymore, 23-year-old striker at the time, played 37 games. He scored 23 goals and got 6 assists in his first proper season in the Premier League. I think he had a few games for Palace a few years before, but literally 1 or 2. He went to Forest, made his name, and this season got him his big move to Liverpool. got him his move to Liverpool. He never had a better season like this season in the Premier League, and he'd have been cheap because no one were expecting him to deliver. I've put him in an Ivan Toney price now, 6.5 million. And I think that's fair because Ivan Toney did brilliant in Championship, comes to Premier League with no real Premier League pedigree behind him, 6.5 million. Stan Collymore would be exactly the same. Difference is Collymore then went on and got 23 goals and 6 assists. His value by the end of the season must have been 8 million. His value next season would have been 9 million plus, 10 million probably for him, because he signed for Liverpool as well. So, bigger club, bit more money probably be put down on him. So Stan Collymore, what a signing that is. 23 goals.
Again, another striker that never quite made it. Again, like Les Ferdinand, I think arguably a better all-round striker than Ferdinand, but Ferdinand obviously had something more than Collymore because he extended his career for as long as he did. Collymore was both-footed, fantastic in the air, quick, and he didn't mind taking players on. But the fact is that apart from this season, and then he had a brief time at Liverpool afterwards.
Couple of seasons really at Liverpool, he scored over 10 goals in those 2 seasons at Liverpool, but I don't think it will. His first season
he was a flop. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he didn't. Put it this way, did he get as far as he could have done with the talent? No, but he scored that iconic goal for Liverpool later on, didn't he? When they beat Newcastle 4-3 in one of the games. And I think it was the first 4-3 game because they had 2 in a row, didn't they? Which were epic. And but the first one, Collymore scored. But
Collymore closing in.
Yeah. But he came third in the Premier League in his season with Notts Forest. Came third, then fourth with his seasons with Liverpool. He was always in a team that finished top 10 basically up until sort of Leicester and Bradford times when he went didn't do as well, but he could have gone on and done more, definitely. But he was in an era where it was tough for English strikers because we had an abundance of them who could score goals, and that leads me on to my next striker who was again an underachiever at international levels. Really, he didn't get the look in though, really, to be fair, and you sort of like thinking, how on earth, given what this guy delivered on. My next guy, he's now a property magnate. He just he owns half of Liverpool. Great, and he does all that. But he was a 19-year-old kid in 94, 95. Fresh onto the scene. He'd sort of hit the season before. He'd come on as a young 18-year-old. Scored a few goals in a number of starts. This was his first full season, and he played 42 games for Liverpool. He scored 25 goals. He got 6 assists. Robbie Fowler is the man here. And this guy was an absolute quality goal scorer. He scored goals. He was like the new modern day Gary Lineker at that stage, I thought, in terms of, anything in the area, he was on it and he buried it. What a striker. Great season for him, 25 goals, 6 assists as a 19-year-old. You can't argue with the quality there. So Robbie Fowler comes in. He's 9 million. I think that'll price him since he only played 27 games the year before, but he scored 12 goals. So I think playing for a big team like Liverpool is probably going to get a big price. So I put him down as 9 million.
Yeah, I'd probably maybe have him cheaper, but given he's starting, I'd say he's probably 8 to 9. Yeah.
Yeah. He would call it Robbie Fowler, but again, didn't make it for England because of the likes of Shearer and Sheringham, and again, Fowler had those great seasons, and then again he sort of like faded off a little bit. He had a bit of a resurgence. He had injuries, didn't he? Injuries started in him a little bit, which were caused, and then when he was trying to come back from those injuries, Michael Owen came along and was setting the world alight at Liverpool. So, it made it tough. I think he had a good resurgence at Leeds, actually, for that season. I think he got a fair few goals for them, which were good. But he always knew where the back of the net was.
Yeah, definitely. One of the best natural finishes. Again, another fantastic left foot. He could hit the ball. Scored some really, really interesting goals as well. Like, he'd score goals where you think he's going to do something. He'd do something very different. Like, he would lob. Remember, he lobbed Schmeichel a couple of times or something. And He did score. He scored quite a lot of goals against United, and that kind of probably put him in the territory of legend status for Liverpool just by doing that. But
oh yeah, definitely,
great goal scorer. And yeah, it's just crazy to think how many good English strikers we had then. So I think I know who the last one's going to be.
Yeah, I think
it's Julian Joachim at Leicester City, right?
Well, Joachim was a very close call. I mean, I thought about it. I did think hard and thought, you know, he has got that, you know, yeah, he's got something about him as the kid, you know. Chris Sutton was in there, you know. He was close to be fair, Sutton, you know, he did well, but you know, his stats were all right, but they weren't as good as Colin Moore and Fowler's, to be fair. So that's why he didn't get in there. Of other worthy notees, obviously Andy Cole started at Newcastle, finished at Man U, but you know he would then come into play a bit later on. But the man, he got PFA. He got PFA Players Player of the Year for this season, and in my opinion, the Players Player of the season is better than any of the others. To be fair, because that's where you play as actually your fellow professionals, or if you play for a local club team, your teammates vote you the best player of the season, and he got that for this year.
As long as you don't get most improved, like or clubman of the year.
Clubman, yeah, Clubman's.
Good washing.
Always good, yeah. But this guy, he was the main man for Blackburn until he then signed for Newcastle, and then he was a Newcastle player for the rest of his career. And I'm sure if he'd have gone to Manchester United instead of Newcastle, he'd have won about 7 or 8 more Premier League titles than just the one he got. And he'd probably won some FA Cups, Champions League or 2, fair bit more. But he always sticks to his guns, says he was happy with what he did. Fair play to him. Alan Shearer, that season, he's most prolific in the Premier League 94-95. 34 goals, 13 assists in 42 games. Now, that's rather good. He'd scored 30 plus goals a season before, so Shearer's in at 12 million. He's in at big money. He could go at 12.5, given I think that's highest that the thing goes at. So I wouldn't have a problem with you upping him $500,000. But Alan Shearer, there's not a better. He will have scored the most points in the fantasy league that year, without doubt. He'd have been my first name on my team sheet. There's nobody in that league that season who can compete with him.
It's just a shame he didn't stay at Southampton, because if he had done, I would have been laughing right now, wouldn't I?
What about him? Shearer up top, Letizia just behind him. Oh, crikey. But yeah, I mean, but now Blackburn had money, didn't they? They offered Southampton good money for the lad. And yeah. I think he repaid them quite well, and then Newcastle bought him for good money as well. And he was obviously quality for England as well. Scored a lot of goals, and he was a striker again who scored lots of different goals. You know, he didn't just score one type of goal. He scored great goals in the air. He scored poacher goals. He scored some belters from outside the air. Do you remember that volley for Newcastle, I think, against Everton?
Yeah.
I mean, that was great. But, in that season, I think a big moment for Blackburn that season was beating Man United 2-0 at home. And Shearer scored both goals. One was a header, one he got put through and just sort of half-volleyed it past Schmeichel. But yeah, he was just phenomenal that season. He was phenomenal for a number of years with Alan Shearer.
Question for you, right? And this is a debate that I had with some of my mates the other week. Who's better?
Are they all Southern your mates?
Of course, yeah. Shout out to the boys. Yeah. So who would you rather have in your team right now? Alan Shearer, as in the Alan Shearer of that time, or Harry Kane? Who is the better striker?
Harry Kane.
Do you really think that?
Yeah.
I honestly can't believe you just said that. I think Harry Kane's a fantastic striker, but I think Alan Shearer is so much better, personally. Harry Kane's done very well.
Why do you think Shearer was better?
Well, I just think that, one of my mates said he fought Kane, and he said, well, what's Shearer done that Kane hasn't? And I said, he won a league title. And that's it. That's That's what we need to do.
That's all he needs to say. Yeah,
that's all we need to know. I mean, Shearer had his injuries. I think that was the thing. He had long-term injuries that meant that he couldn't score as many as he did. But had he not had those injuries, I don't think Kane gets close to his goal-scoring record. But maybe that makes the player by staying fit, and depends how you see it.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying. I know I said it quite confidently, and pretty well.
I can feel some backtracking.
I'm not backtracking at all. Kane's still my pick, but I've known that would be my pick. Pretty instantly. I think I'm like that with a lot of players. I'd pretty much know most who I'd rather sort of see. And I think if you compare the two, it's what Shearer did was fantastic for his club. He had a couple of lean seasons and stuff like that. I just think with Harry Kane, I think it'll be close in terms of the goals scored. I think if Kane keeps going how he's going at the moment, he's got a great chance of maybe equaling or bettering Shearer's goal scoring Premier League record. I mean, what's he on at the moment? Kane, is he 180, 185, 190, something like that? What, Shearer 260 was he in Premier League?
Something like that, yeah.
So I mean, he's still got 80 goals to go, but if he has 4 more seasons in the Premier League and stays fit, which he should easily get 4 more seasons in him, if he doesn't leave the Premier League, then he's probably gonna do it. You think? I think he's definitely gonna break the England goal scoring record.
Yeah, it goes without saying. Yeah.
I mean, that's different though, because there's a lot more friendlies played nowadays. Although they've got rid of the friendlies for the Nations League, but that's still more games. There's and stuff. So it's, I suppose, a little bit different on that point. But I do think Kane's just. I think Shearer had a great all-round game as well, but where Kane's just better because he scores just as many goals as Shearer does. But Kane creates more goals. He gets more assists. I'm pretty sure his assist record's better, and I think when he drops deep, people get frustrated by that. But his passing range is just phenomenal as well, Harry Kane. But don't get me wrong, I won't mind it either in my team. Have them both in my team. I'll be greedy. If Kane moved up to Man City, I could have a legends team of Norman people of Kane and Shearer up front with A over.
Okay, well, let's have a quick run through. We'll go through your team state. So just go through your team, who you picked, all 15, just quickly.
Yeah. So Pete Schmeichel in net from Man United. Gavin Ward from Leicester as a second choice keeper who doesn't play. Defenders: Stuart Pearce, Notts Forest; Andy Hinchcliffe, Everton; David Weatherall, Leeds; Dennis Irwin, Man U; Peter Atherton, Sheffield Wednesday. Midfielders: Brian Roy, Forest; Andre Kanchelskis, Man U; Rule Fox, Newcastle; Gary McAllister, Leeds; Gary Flitcroft, Man City. Up top: Alan Shearer, Blackburn; Stan Collymore, Forest, and Robbie Fowler, Liverpool.
Okay,
I valued them at 99.5 million. So half a million spare.
I've got, so for the Southern team, we got Ludo McCloskey, Nigel Martin. The defenders: Steve Staunton, Julian Dix, Klaus Thompson, Warren Barton, and Andy Impey. The midfield: Matt Letizia, John Wark, Darren Anderton, Don Hutchison, Nicky Barmby. And the strikers: Jurgen Klinsmann, Les Ferdinand, and Ian Wright. Now, let's combine this. Let's work out our full team. I think it goes without saying that. Sure, I think Schmeichel gets in just as the overall best goalkeeper. I think Nigel Martin can creep in as the backup. Right?
Yeah,
you give me that, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now with defenders, I can't disagree with Hinchcliffe. I can't disagree with Irwin, and I can't disagree with Stuart Pearce. I will be throwing Klaus Thompson in there as a cheap option. I do. I think that goes without saying as well, right? And you know what I'm probably going to say when it comes to the midfielders, right? Is Ipswich teammate. But now we've got to choose between Dix, Staunton, and Atherton, and who was the other guy?
Weatherall.
What we're thinking?
Well, yeah, I suppose we've got to have Klaus Thompson in there. We need a cheap.
Well, no,
option.
Thompson's in there. That's it. It's so cheap. We got to get value for money here, mate.
But I forgot that this partnership became a dictatorship all of a sudden. Well, I mean, I'm gonna push. You know me, I would go with your guy if I felt that we should, but David Weatherall got 17 clean sheets for Leeds that season. And
how many goals?
3.
Julian Dix was on penalties. You knew he got 13 clean sheets. You knew he was on penalties. He was, and if he got a penalty, he scored the penalty. So you're basically sitting there each week. Don't think about the overall. Think about how you're feeling as you're putting your team in 94, 95. You're sitting there and you're thinking, all right, I'm going to put Julian Dix in. It doesn't matter who they're playing, because if they get a penalty, he's scoring that penalty. He only got 5 penalties, but he scored all 5. Yeah. Is he in? Yes. Come on.
He goes in.
Go on, big man. In you go.
That's only because I'm getting pretty much the rest of the team. So
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So midfield again goes without saying. Matt Letizia is in there without a doubt. Right.
Now you can have Letizia.
Yeah.
I'll also give you Anderton as well.
Anderton's in there, brilliant, lovely stuff. And then we've got from your side Brian Roy, without doubt, surely.
Kanchelskis as well.
Kanchelskis, and we need a cheap midfielder, right?
Well, I've got Gary Flitcroft, who got 5 goals, 4 assists in 37 games at 5.5. He's better than your John Wark. I'm not having John Wark.
John Wark's cheaper, and he's 36.
Look,
brings experience, you know, and if he's sitting there kind of giving the guys good encouragement, you know, he's been there, done that. Flitcroft's a young guy. He's probably out partying all night and brings the team morale down.
Seriously, Wark's out. I bet you what, do you know why Wark's out? Because he was probably filming Escape to Victory at the time, which he was involved with, getting pissed with Bobby Moore and that lot.
He was, I think, arguably, he was the best actor in that film.
Bloody Bobby Moore there. Don't be stupid. No.
I will give you one guarantee. All right, I'm going to tell you a fact about Gary Flitcroft that's going to basically make you realise that John Wark's our man, right? You spell Gary with 1 R. Flitcroft, he had 2 R's in there. What the hell is that all about? Because that's argument done.
It was Gowie, not Gary. He was Gowie. Yeah, it's like Jonathan Ross would say.
All right, well, it's going to break. It's gonna break Klaus Thompson's heart, but all right, we'll go with Gary. Yeah. Flitcroft.
To be fair, you have no argument pushback because you just pulled the Julian Dix or David Weatherall for the better goals and assist ratio. So I've just done it with Gary Flitcroft to you.
I think Dix intimidated you into it, really.
I think Flitcroft's lovely kills intimidate you and your bloody Lloyd Christmas hairdo today. Look, you can't obviously see it, but Heath has done nothing with his hair for tonight's podcast. I'm very disappointed in that. It's just like, I mean, it's fluffy. I mean, I can't even believe his missus has let him come on this call with that. You know, shame. You give us some. Tell her that I told her that.
She's not here. She doesn't know, and she won't listen to this podcast either, so she'll never find out. All right,
that's okay.
So, now let's. All right, this is the hard bit. Right, I think Ferdinand and Wright don't make it personally, but I do think Klinsmann's got to be in there. Team of the season, he's got to be in there.
Right,
and I'm happy with Shearer. Just all right, but yeah, obviously I'll give you Fowler, I guess, or I would go Collymore. Collymore's a value for money. We'll go with Collymore.
Yeah, we're going to need Collymore in there for the value for money. I think that's a definite, and Shearer definitely goes in there as well. I mean, Ferdinand goes in before Klinsmann.
Really? But Klinsmann, like I say, got team of the season. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I prefer Les Ferdinand. His stats are better, but
you're picking at the start of the season, though. You know, we don't know Klinsmann's at the end of the season, do we? But I think Ferdinand is the sort of player. You know, at QPR, he's their main man. He's always going to be their main man, and he's going to score goals already at the start. I mean, yeah, you think Klinsmann's going to do that, but you've got other potentials at Spurs. So you're thinking that. Well,
I'll be honest with you. I feel sorry. I feel bad that I haven't fought Les's case more here, but I'm gonna agree with you, because if we agree Ferdinand being 9 million, Klinsmann being 11, then value for money. He scored more goals. He's got one less assist. Big Les is in there. So so just to kind of recap, we've now got an ultimate team. Peter Schmeichel in goal, Nigel Martin as backup. That's going to be a set and forget there, with Schmeichel staying in goal the whole season.
Yeah.
Then we've got Julian Dix, Andy Hinchcliffe, Stuart Pearce.
Got a lot of left backs in this defence.
That's right. I'm missing someone from, who am I missing?
Dennis Irwin.
And
off left back, but
and the bench warmer himself, Klaus Thompson, as the cheap defender. Then our midfield
play 3 at the back. Could play 3 at the back.
Exactly. We've got Matt Letizia, we've got Gary Flickcroft, Darren Anderton. Then we have Andre Kanchelskis and Brian Roy. And then sticking with the Nottingham Forest theme, we've got Stan Collymore as our cheapest striker. We've got Les Ferdinand, and we've got the main man, Alan Shearer. And that is our team of the 1994-95 Premier League season. If you disagree with us, then good luck with that. But to be honest,
make your own team and send it to us. Yeah,
we're exhausted. No, jokes aside, honestly, I absolutely love doing it, and you'll be hearing another one of these at some point. We might add it to our future podcast and maybe split it by position over a handful of weeks. But love doing it, and whatever feedback you want to add to this, please get in touch with us on Twitter and tell us, we need to get this player in. We needed John Wark and not Gary Flickcroft. We needed Peter Atherton and not Julian Dix. Tell us.
We needed anyone but not Klaus Thompson.
And remember that we are working off of Premier League years highlights on YouTube and our memories of when we were, like I said, around 9-10 years old. It was quite tough. So if you were a season ticket holder at Leeds United or at Southampton and you're looking at this and going, oh my God, they haven't even mentioned this guy, give it to us, throw it our way. We're all ears.
Yeah.
But so no, lovely stuff. Well done, mate. I'm happy with your Northern team. Obviously, my team's full of character. I think on paper, you probably would just about scrape it if we were doing a head-to-head like we are at the moment. Just about. But yeah, that finishes our team of the past for the 94-95. Now, last week, my main man State, he found himself in a bit of a tricky situation. He failed at the quiz, found himself getting a fine, screwed him over for his team this week, and now it's payback. Over to you, big man. It
is. So the quiz this week is going to be based on the 1994-1995 season.
Lovely stuff.
Yeah. I'm going to throw you a select questions. They will always be the same type of question. Some will be different. Some will be good. But you're going to get 2 options on most of the questions. So you've got 50-50 chance, which I think is very fair.
I'm confident, mate. I'm confident.
First question. Who finished higher in the table in 94-95, Chelsea or Arsenal?
Do you know what? I think I know this. I think it's Arsenal. And I think that Arsenal finished like 12th. And I think Chelsea finished like 15th or 16th or something.
So, Arsenal did finish 12th. You were correct there. Chelsea finished 11th.
Oh.
It's in. What a start. Loved how you got Arsenal bang on as well. That made my day, that did. You know, I could have made it a lot better for you by saying, oh, you are correct. And you'd have been really happy. And I went, that Arsenal came 12th, but I should have done that. But never mind.
I'll edit it in.
Hindsight's a great thing. So that's the first one. Right. Second one. In the PFA Team of the Year that season, who had the most players from one club in that team out of Manchester United and Blackburn?
Blackburn won the league. So on paper, they probably should. Man United, how many would they have? Do you know what? I feel this is a trick question, but I think you want me to go with Man United. So I'm gonna go Blackburn Rovers.
Is the correct answer. Blackburn smashed it. I loved how you were so worried about saying them though. It basically, I knew you'd get it right, but the fact that I saw you like stressing about it was enjoyment enough.
Well, like I said, I thought it was a trick question where it's like the team who won the league should have the most.
It was a bluff trick question, if you get me.
Nice, I like it.
Yeah, I was there, right on it. So then, barring Crystal Palace and Ipswich, which two of these four teams got relegated this season? Coventry City, Manchester City, Norwich City, or Leicester City?
It's too easy. It's too easy. It's Norwich City and Leicester City.
That is correct. Well done. Things are going to get cranked up a notch now. Top scorers from Newcastle United and Leeds United both scored the same amount of goals, which was 12. Who scored those goals in the least amount of games? And the goal scorers were Peter Beardsley and Tony Yeboah.
I'd probably go with Yeboah.
That is correct. You're 3-1 up.
Honestly, this is what I was made. I was put on this planet for this exact moment. I've been begging people to give me a 90s football quiz, and it's finally come my way. I'm loving life.
Fair enough. So, this one isn't a 50-50 one. You get this right. Who scored the most goals in the Premier League season between Paul Rideout, Dion Dublin, and Uwe Rosler?
It's definitely not Rideout. And I think the problem is I know how many Dublin score, but do you know, I'm going to go with Dublin because I've got a feeling that Rosler came on the scene late in the day. I'm pretty sure Man City had Niall Quinn and Paul Walsh up front for a lot of the season, and then Rosler came in at the end, scored a fair few goals. But I'm going with Dublin, Dion Dublin.
Dion Dublin scored the least amount of goals out of those. The correct answer is Uwe Rosler, who got 15. Paul Rideout got 14, and Dion Dublin got 13.
Oh, damn.
Unlucky for some, but not for you. This next question, if you get this right, I'll accept defeat straight away. Outside of Klaus Thompson and John Wark, who was the next top scorer for Ipswich? I'll give you three options.
Yeah, okay. I need them.
You've got Steve Sedgley, Frank Yallop.
Good old Frankie.
And Alex Matthew.
Oh, Alex Matthew was a striker. So, but did he play a lot? It's definitely not Yallop. I can't remember him playing that much. Or he might have done, but he didn't do
41
much.
games that season.
But he didn't do much.
Ipswich didn't do much that season.
They didn't. I just feel like Yallop is a name that I would have remembered if he'd have scored more goals than most, but I don't think it was him. So it was Maffey, and who was the other guy? Oh, Sedgley. Steve Sedgley.
Steve Sedgley, yeah.
It could be Steve Sedgley. It was like a centre midfielder. Trick question again. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with Alex Maffey.
Should have gone with Steve Sedgley. Steve Sedgley was the correct answer.
At least I was right about Yallop.
Yeah, you were very right about him. He did nothing. Nothing. So, right then. 3-3. Here we go. Big question now. Sheffield Wednesday had 3 strikers who scored goals in this season. Mark Bright, Guy Whittingham, and David Hirst. Who scored the most goals?
Oh, geez. So again, my knowledge off the top of my head is that Guy Whittingham was like a sub striker. He was like a guy who used to come on. David Hirst was their main man. Mark Bright was probably, I don't think he scored that many goals. I mean, I think he scored goals, but I don't think he scored. I'm going to go with David Hirst.
That is the incorrect answer.
Oh!
Mark Bright scored the most that season. He got 11 goals that year.
How many did Hirst get in?
3.
Really?
Guy Whittingham got 9.
Jeez.
Hirst was, I think he might have had a few injuries that season.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the season before that.
So, yeah. 4-3. 2 questions remaining.
Okay. I've got to get a comeback going on.
So then, you ready for this one, yeah?
Born ready, mate.
Earlier on, I was talking about clean sheets in the game. Who got the most clean sheets in this season?
Is it
David James?
Okay.
Or Pavel Cernicek?
I feel like you want me to say Cernicek because James was a little bit erratic, but I'm going to go with David James.
That is the correct answer. David James got 16. Pavel Cernicek got 13. It was a simple one. Newcastle conceded a lot of goals. They didn't keep as many clean sheets.
I think Liverpool did too as well, to be fair, but not as many as Newcastle.
Yeah. So then,
nervous.
The deciding question: who scored the most goals out of the England wingers from the '96 Euros in the squad? So you've got Steve McManaman, got Steve Stone, and Darren Anderton to choose from. Who scored the most goals in this season?
Well, it certainly isn't Darren Anderton. It can't be. Again, I think you want me to say McManaman. I think you think that I'm going to say McManaman because he's a better player on paper. So I'm going to go for old Baldy, Steve Stone.
Well, let me give you some stats here. So Darren Anderton scored 5 goals that season. Steve Stone scored 5 goals that season. Steve McManaman scored 7. So Steve McManaman is the correct answer. You are the weakest link, Heath. Good band.
I'll be honest with you, mate, and I'm not kind of questioning your judgment here, but I do feel like when I was on a bit of a roll, you went from being a 50-50 shot to a 33.33% shot.
I gave you 1 in 3 options, yes.
You thought to yourself, these are going to be really hard, he'll never get them. And then I started getting them, and you're like, I've got to make this 3 rather than 2. It's too easy.
Well, look at it this way. You screwed me over in the last quiz.
True.
You back. And I still gave you 3 options, so it wasn't exactly that bad.
True. I mean, Yallop. That's all I'm going to say. Yallop.
Exactly. That was easy. That was pretty much a 50-50. And you got that one right, you know.
But it wasn't a 50-50.
It was. Well, actually, no, you didn't get it right either. You went for Alex Maffey. It wasn't. You scouted Frank Yallop because he was just there as a spanner in the works to put you off the scent, and it sort of worked, to be fair. So yeah, I'm very happy. Yeah.
So so fine. Have you got a fine up your sleeve?
I do have a fine up my sleeve. You cannot captain Lukaku in the next game week.
Okay.
I mean, that's quite a nice one because you probably weren't captaining him anyway.
Who are they playing?
Well, I'm not going to tell you that now, am I? We're in the pub.
All right. Well,
they're at home to Aston Villa.
Well, you've broken my heart because they haven't got Martinez, they haven't got Mings. So, yeah, brilliant. Okay, great. No, mate, that was a great quiz. And like I say, I could do that all day long. But yeah, I think, well, I hope that everyone enjoyed what we had to offer tonight. It is a bit nostalgic. And for anyone who, wasn't into or never really had a fondness of 90s football, this podcast probably isn't for you today. But for those who were, hopefully you enjoyed it. And we will definitely be doing another Team of the Past in the future.
Yeah.
Next week we'll be recording later, like we have done this week, but we will be, back to what we normally do.
Game week review. Well, we might even do a preempted shit list. Who knows? Who's going to be on our shit list after that week?
And we'll be continuing on with our the best player to ever be in FPL. That'll be continuing next week. But yeah, from me, I'd like to again just say thank you to everyone for listening. Thank you for everyone who joined up to the North versus South mini league. And yeah, I hope you're enjoying these. And yeah, it's a good night from me.
Yeah, good night, everyone.